This is the 8BitDo M30 wired controller for the Xbox. And here's the box that it comes in. Pretty simple. This controller is going to work for the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and then Windows. And here's the controller. It's got the colors of the Xbox face buttons. And unlike the original for the PC, which has only 2 shoulder buttons, this new version has 4 shoulder buttons. It comes with this really long USB-C cable. I would say it's about 10 feet long, but I could be wrong. It's pretty long. Alright, let's start with the overall design. This thing is tiny. Look how small it is. It literally fits in the palm of my hand. If you have small hands, then this is great. But if you have big hands like me, this is really uncomfortable to use. It's just too small for my hands. So typically what I need to do is I need to rest the handles on the upper palm of my hands. So that way I can reach the shoulder buttons and the triggers, and also so that my thumb can be placed in the center of the D-pad. Because of this loose position, if you mash on these buttons, you're gonna just press the wrong buttons. This controller would have been so much better if it's the same size as this 8BitDo SNK Neo Geo controller. Look at how comfortable it is to hold this guy. My index fingers is not overshooting. My thumb is right on the joystick. No problem at all. But this guy, I'm overshooting everything. If I hold it like this and I want to press RT, I gotta do some gymnastics with my thumb here to go all the way here. See how weird that is? Well, here's the fun thing to do. Let's compare the size of this, the M30, to the size of the original Duke controller. Look at this. Oh my god. Isn't that insane? This thing is a behemoth compared to this tiny controller. Look at this. And this is actually a really comfortable controller. Fits my hand perfectly. This guy, not so much. But for now, let's talk about the face buttons. I think the colors on here are cool, but you know what would have been really cool is if these RB and RT buttons have the same colors as the original Xbox controller. This guy has 6 face buttons, right? 1 white, 1 black. All they needed to do is have this guy be white, like right here. That would have been awesome. In terms of the buttons themselves, they're nice and clicky. They're pretty tactile. But there's a couple of things that I don't like about this layout. One is the bottom row is nice and big, but the buttons on top are so small. They're about half the size as the bottom buttons. If you hold a controller like this, it's kind of hard to press both of these buttons at once because you have to go over these big buttons, and oftentimes you're going to accidentally press them. And another thing that I really hate is whenever they design controllers like this. You notice how the buttons are placed on top of this concaved area, right? Well, how does that affect gameplay? Because of this concaved area, the edges are naturally higher than where the buttons sit. And on the edges, as you can see here, the faceplate is almost horizontal to the X button. Same thing with A. And when you hold a controller like this, and you want to press X and A at the same time, you have to fight through this edge. Now the workaround would be to play claw. So this way you don't have that problem. But I typically do not like to play claw. For one, it's really uncomfortable. Look at my wrist bend. This is not a natural hand position to be in. Your wrist is not gonna like you if you play like this for a long period of time. But also secondly, when you play like this, there's just no leverage. Whenever you push down on the buttons, the controller just goes this way. Now check this out. This controller is made by 8BitDo also, but the face buttons are the same size, and it's not placed in this stupid concave area like on this controller. But with that being said though, you can get used to it over time. Just be prepared that it may take a while to get used to it. Now if we go around the controller, you're going to see there's a headphone jack here, and then a mic mute switch. And on the back, you get a left stick to D-pad switch. And on the right hand side here, you're going to have a switch for the trigger and the shoulder buttons. So really there's only two options here. Now if you choose this side, it's going to be left trigger, left button, right button. But this option is not what you think it is. You would think that this is the left button and right button, left trigger and right trigger, right? Nope. The triggers are somehow programmed to the shoulder buttons. And the shoulder buttons are programmed on the triggers, so they are reversed. I have no idea why they program it like that, but that's the way it is. This is so stupid and there's no way to change it. Alright, just look at the top here. It says left button, right button to switch the pages, right? So left button, right button does nothing because these are triggers. Left button starts working. It's just really weird. I don't know who the hell made this decision. The other option you have here is left stick button, and then right stick button, and then left button and left trigger. And honestly, because of this, I really think that this controller is designed for Street Fighter 6. Because in the practice mode, you can use the left stick button to record or the right stick button to record your dummy. And in the combo challenge, the right stick is going to access the command list, and then the left stick, you can watch the example. Come on, it's time to train. That's a sick combo, huh? And on this side, you're gonna have the left trigger and the left button, and you're gonna have to use these extra buttons here for the right button and the right trigger. It's great that this option exists. However, I'm so used to having the trigger and the shoulder buttons to access my drive impact and then my drive parry. So I just like it this way because I'm so used to it from other controllers. However, having them programmed this way, it gives me another problem, which is for me to do the dash, just holding this down and then do double forward. Because the controller is so small, so when I press and hold the shoulder button, you see how it kind of pushes the controller down. There's no leverage point for me. What you're gonna need to do in this case is use your pinky and then your ring finger here to kind of use it as leverage to stop the controller from sliding. And this is the theme of this controller because it's so small. You gotta do little things like that to prevent it from sliding around. With a bigger controller, you wouldn't have these problems. In terms of the buttons themselves, they're nice and clicky. I actually like them a lot. But they're just kind of hard to use because the controller is just so small. Alright, let's get to the D-pad. There was a comment in my unboxing video of this controller that says that other players have experienced accidental jump on this controller more so than the original. Is that true? The answer is yes, and here's why. On the original, the D-pad is a lot stiffer than on the Xbox version. This thing is really loose, right? That could be a good thing or a bad thing. On this guy, the directionals are a lot more sturdy, but because it's stiffer, can't really do motion input that fast. And on here, because it's looser, so you can roll your thumb around a lot faster. But because of this, if you roll too much, see that? You're gonna accidentally jump. Or if you just back up at an angle, he's gonna accidentally jump. So yes, because of the looser D-pad, you're more prone to get accidental jumps. So you gotta be careful. Instead of doing that, now I just roll it a little bit more forward, like that, instead of at an angle. Like this, you're gonna get a jump. But if you go like this, you're not gonna get a jump. You just have to be conscious of it, that's all. I also have a lot of problems with double quarter circle forwards. So for example, that move right there. Oftentimes when I do that, you see that? He did a different move. He did a kick instead. Sometimes he would do that. But other times, either he would jump or he would do that. And that drove me crazy in the beginning. After looking into it, this is the problem. If you look here, you see how down is missing, right? It just go to down, forward, forward, and then back to down, forward, down, down, forward, forward, and then there's a kick. And that would happen to me a lot, where the down direction wouldn't register. And again, that's because this D-pad is loose. Now what had happened was, I would press down, but at an angle. Because I'm trying to slide it up. I'm trying to do a quarter circle forward really fast. What I learned over time is think of this as like a joystick instead of a D-pad. With a joystick, to do quarter circle forward, you gotta go down first, then go up, right? Apply the same technique on this D-pad. So you would just press down first, and then go forward. So now, I don't miss it anymore. In my review of the original M30, somebody had mentioned that the pivot on this D-pad, you can press in, it's a rubber pivot. And it's true, you can press it in. And that's also true on this guy as well. And I don't know why they did that. Sometimes this is gonna cause you to accidentally jump. This rubber pivot is more of an issue if you play charge characters. Sometimes he's gonna jump, see that? But to be honest with you, those issues are rare, at least for me. I don't have a problem with it most of the time. Now I have laid out a lot of issues with this D-pad, however, truth to be told, this is still a pretty good D-pad. After the initial learning curve, and then after getting used to the looser nature of it, if you think of this as a stick, it becomes a lot better. See, no problem at all. It's got a nice feel to it, it's snappy, responsive. The surface is pretty smooth, so you can glide your thumb around pretty easily. Despite all of its issues, I still like it a lot. Now ironically, this thing feels like it was designed for Street Fighter with the 6-button layout and stuff, and the way you can program the triggers and show the buttons. But this controller is actually better for 3D fighting games. For one, diagonals are really accurate. You would think that because the D-pad is looser, that diagonals wouldn't be very good, but that's not the case. And then double taps, super responsive. If you're here looking for an input lag test on this guy, I'm not able to do it because the software that I use requires a left stick for me to measure the input lag. And obviously, this guy doesn't have one, so I can't do it. Alright, final thoughts. Are there issues with this controller? Yes. The main issue is that the controller itself is just too small. And that affects the way that I have to hold a controller, and because of that I have to change the way I play. And I can already see it, most people will not give this controller a chance just because they're not willing to spend the time to get used to it. But once you do, like I have, it can be a very good controller. It's excellent for 3D fighters, and it can be good for Street Fighter 6 and other 2D fighters if you get used to it. And honestly, this thing only costs $35. What else can you expect? I think the D-pad is excellent. The buttons are tactile. I love the fact that they added 2 more buttons up here. And despite its flaws, I still think this is a very good controller for fighting games. Especially if you're able to play claw comfortably, then these face buttons are great. If you have smaller hands, this is an excellent controller for fighting games. But if you have big hands like me, It's gonna take some time to get used to it, but once you do, it can also be good for playing games. With that being said though, I do wish that this controller was bigger though. If it was the size of this guy, it would be perfect. Make it happen, 8BitDo. Just make this guy a little bit bigger and then we're all set. Alright, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more. Take care now.